Hey everyone, this is Luke again, and welcome back to yet another Ninjago video onto the channel today. Now, this is a topic that is pretty serious, and this is something that's I feel like a lot of people have been noticing a lot more and more as of late, and that is Ninjago YouTube, at least in my opinion, is dead. Now, what do I mean by the term dead? What I mean is that not necessarily that there are no longer videos being made about Ninjago. There's still definitely some being made by a lot of by creators probably even smaller than me, or at least currently smaller than me, but probably get more views. Funny enough, um, but they don't get the same amount of traction or the same amount of views that it got um, 5 years ago when I first started making this channel. And but to determine what I truly mean by the term Ninjago YouTube is dead, we got to go back to when Ninjago first came out. Obviously, YouTube was a thing when Ninjago first came out, since YouTube started in 2005, and Ninjago started way later in 2011. So obviously there were some Ninjago videos back then, but there weren't really any big creators. You know what I mean, in that sector. They were just like almost like one-off videos of Ninjago stuff, but they didn't have an entire account based solely on Ninjago. That was until around, I would say, early to mid, probably the mid 2010s. That's when I believe the first true first wave of Ninjago content began, in the form of Ninjago stop motions. You had D Tenaglia, um, AL123, Cooper Ace, Lego Man Sam before he got exposed. Um, you had Mike R&M, a bunch of all those people that made these stop motions that got thousands and thousands of views, creating their own stories via the Ninjago sets and stuff like that. Stories that have lasted years and are remembered by people for years. That's, a lot of nostalgia. Um, but eventually, that type of content kind of sputtered out around 2017, maybe 2018. But then now we enter the second wave of Ninjago content, and where we have the commentary genre, the people who talk about it and express their opinions about it. Tanner Fishy's the big one. R&D, aka David, who doesn't really do anything. Daily Rollord, me, Overlord X, who strangely disappeared. Overlord 1469, who left. Four Corner Z, still there. Um, and a bunch of others. And a lot of those people came around during that time, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. Probably because we didn't really have any other options, but to make channels, because that was like our only way of like getting any sort of entertainment at the time. Um, and a lot of us just had opinions on Ninjago, some very much vastly different from others. I know mine was different because I was praised a lot back then for being very different and having a much more unique perspective on the show, because I'm a show purist. I didn't care about the sets. Um, I probably should have mentioned, earlier, that the a lot of the really old videos, probably even before the era of stop motions, were mostly just set reviews and take a look at some certain sets. But like I said, they weren't channels, as far as I can see, that were fully dedicated on this. Um, but the Ninjago commentary genre, I thought, at least for a while was one to stay. But then around 2022 and even 2023, we had the third most recent wave of Ninjago content that probably lasted the shortest amount of time. And that was the Ninjago reaction content, where you had a bunch of people who didn't necessarily knew what Ninjago was, or at least may have heard of it, but wanted to watch the episodes and posted their reactions to certain episodes. Sea Bloom kind of pioneered it. Then you had React Zone, and a few other people who did their reactions. And that sort of, I guess, helped Ninjago get a little bit more popularity. But after, I would say, 2024-ish, I'm the views of those videos, especially, in all contents that I mentioned before, set reviews, stop motions, commentary, and even reaction, they started to dwindle down big time after that. And honestly, it's very sad to see the current state of Ninjago YouTube being a shell of its former self. And now you may be wondering, why is that? Why has Ninjago YouTube been like this for the past year, maybe even 2 years? Well, there isn't one single concrete answer, but rather an amalgamation of things that have happened. An amalgamation of factors that created this perfect storm to which I feel like Ninjago YouTube really can't escape from. Number one, the first main reason for a lot of people is just life in general. It's just life in general. Life doesn't stay in one place. It moves on whether you're here to witness it or not. It goes on. And for a lot of people, they sort of grew out of that phase of liking Ninjago. Some people grew out of it as far back as, when the original series was supposed to end in season 2. Some people grew out around 2015. Some people grew up around 2018. Some around 2022. And some are still with it to this day. But it's just a matter of we're getting older. We're not gonna get younger, you know. And it surprises me a lot. I was 8 years old when the the series first came out on TV. 8 years old, and I'm currently 22. That's how old this series is. So, and if we're talking about making Ninjago content wise, I've been making it since I was 16, and now I'm 22. So, so I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. Um, which kind of brings me into my second point, and that is we kind of ran out of things to do. We kind of did everything we could. We kind of explorged. I'm not sure if I just made that word up. We kind of just did everything we could about making Ninjago content. That's not to say we still don't try, but it's much, much harder to make Ninjago videos now in this day and age than it was years ago, back when our channels were still somewhat fresh and new, and we had a bajillion ideas of what to do, to the point where it's almost overwhelming. Nowadays, we struggle to just get even one. And that's why a lot of us are taking a lot of, huge sabbaticals, because we just don't have the ideas in us to fully make videos. And that sucks. But that's the reality of the situation. And like I said, life goes on. Which, you know, I didn't fully mention this in what I mentioned earlier, but I'm going to explain now. A lot of us, you know, like I said, are getting much older. Like, Daily, um, when he started, he was like 12 years old when he first started making videos, like 11 or 12. He's 18, 19 now. He's like 18, 19. Yeah. So he's grown up, plain and simple. We just grown up, plain and simple. And that includes stuff like getting a job, going to college, finishing up high school, you know? A lot of us back then, we were like at, in middle school, potentially even just starting high school. Now we're getting out of high school into college and potentially becoming a member of society, which is scary. It's a scary transition because we we almost thought we were going to be these people making stupid Ninjago videos forever. But now we realize that that's not the case. We now realize that we have to be a productive member of society. And thus, it gives us less time to make Ninjago videos. So, like I said, there's less time. Um, and when you have little to no motivation and not as much time to do it because you're old, um, and you just want to do something else, it's kind of no wonder why Ninjago YouTube is faltering. But I also think there's another factor. And I think that's because most of Ninjago news isn't on YouTube anymore. Back then, Ninjago YouTube was one of the if not the primary source for Ninjago information, especially if you watched Tanner Fishies back then. Um, Considering he still basically has monopolized Ninjago News content, which isn't his fault, by the way. He was just the first one to do it, so he was just lucky. But nowadays, you don't really see any Ninjago videos other than Tanner Fishies, which sucks. But that's the reality. It's very hard to make a profitable Ninjago channel based off of Ninjago. Back then, a few years ago, it was possible. Now it's really not. I feel like that's where a lot of people also really kind of, were, quitting it. Especially, around last year where everybody was quitting even if they were making lots of money, you know. Nick the Brick, my friend from Ninja Legends, he said, he made some money when he was making his minifigure stuff, but it wasn't enough to fully sustain him. It wasn't enough to fully tide him by. It's like side cash at the end of the day, but he needed like a main cash port for like the daily living, the expenses and stuff like that. And he's younger than me, so if this was happening to him when he was younger, what's it going to be like for me, who is a legal adult in the United States? It's it's just scary, man. Most Ninjago news nowadays is on other platforms such as Twitter, Reddit, Blue Sky, Instagram, you name it. Because it's just easier to just type out a few words and then boom, there you go. There's your news. Than to have to make a video like this one, create it, edit it, and then post it. It just takes a lot more effort to make a video than it is to make a simple tweet or a simple post about it on Instagram. So that's where I think a lot of people are getting their Ninjago news from Instagram, stuff like that, where it's much easier to consume than it is to watch a full Ninjago video like this one. So I think that most of the Ninjago news nowadays is on there. Back then, it was YouTube. But these are just some of the reasons. I think all of the reasons why I personally believe that Ninjago YouTube is dead in the water. We're just getting old. We don't really have that interest with Ninjago anymore because of that age. Um, because I forgot to mention that. Sorry. Um, the age thing. Now, obviously, age affects everyone differently. Like you like I remember seeing this like post. I don't know if it's still on the internet. It probably is. But there's like this anime picture of a kid pointing at a Ninjago poster from season 1 and with their mom, when they were like 10 years old or something like that. And then it cuts to a modern day Ninjago poster of them and I'm guessing with their spouse or something like that, still talking about Ninjago, and it's like, yeah, it was fine and kind of cool back then when you're like 10, but now that you're in your 20s, it's kind of like, it's kind of weird, kind of cringy. That I'm not trying to discourage people by doing that. You can do whatever you want, but just know, the risks and know the personal judgment from, other people when you watch something that's outside of your age demographic. But yeah, those are my reasons for why I believe Ninjago YouTube is dead. Um, the age demographic change, the lack of content around it anymore, the shifting from YouTube to other social media platforms, um, the lack of ideas, the new generational content, and just life in general moving on, and never letting up a single beat. And those are my reasons to why I believe Ninjago YouTube is truly dead in the water. Can it be saved or salvaged? Unless the current gen or even the people younger than me make Ninjago videos on their channel, which I don't see them doing because a lot of them would do want to prioritize their education and whatnot, which I support. Education is important. But I just don't see them having that passion to make Ninjago videos because it's much easier to talk about it on and post it, like type out it like this, rather than to fully make a video about it. It's just a lot easier to just type it and say what you want than for it to be done in this format via a video. But that's all I've got to say about this topic. I've kind of went on a little bit too long of a rant. But what do you guys think? Do you think Ninjago YouTube is dead in the water, or am I just speaking nonsense? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel by clicking the red subscribe button and click on the notification bell to see every video that I will upload. And I'll see you folks in the next video. Bye bye!